what's happening at Ewetopia Farms today. So let's get started. Right now I'm heading off to the bean fields because we're harvesting our bean crop today. I'm over at the property we're renting from our neighbors, and that's where they're working on the beans. So we'll head out there, and as we drive along, we'll take a look at our corn as well. That means it's dry, that's for sure. Oh my goodness, looks like it's on fire, there's so much dust. We're out in the field now. Cody's just gonna start a new lane there. And she's off. And see how that dust overwhelms us very quickly. That usually means that the beans are really dry and really ready to come off. Now, one thing that I hadn't realized, beans, unlike corn, tend to dry up like a lot quicker because maybe they're smaller, I don't know. But what happens if you get them too dry is they shrink and they become lighter, so you're getting less weight per ton. Corn, I guess it would be the same thing, but usually the problem with corn is getting it dry enough, because what happens is when the corn or the beans are sent to the grain elevators, they don't want a lot of moisture in it because that will cause the grains to mold. And so what they do is they will send them through a dryer if they're over a certain percentage. And that cost of drying the grains gets put onto us. So you never want to send your grain away too wet. But the reverse is also true. If it's too dry, that you'll get less per ton. You won't have a drying fee, but you'll get paid less because there is less. So you want it to be as perfect as possible. And I will find out what exactly the percentage, the ideal percentage for beans is right now. And we'll also talk to Cody and find out what the yield is on this field. So all that stuff that's creating the dust that's coming out the back of the combine are the shells from the soybeans and the stems that are being chopped up. There should be no more leaves left on the soybeans at all. They drop off, and that's kind of the indicator that the beans are ready to go. Once all the leaves are off, you know it's well on its way to being dried down. So the debris is chucked out the back of the combine, and the head at the front of the combine is cutting it, and then it gets sucked into the combine itself, where there's a little hopper where all the shelled beans go until the combine itself is full. I believe this combine holds 10 ton of grain, but we can double check that as well. Once it's full, he will bring it over to a wagon and empty it. And here's a wagon over here. I much prefer filming soybean harvest to corn because normally soybeans are coming off in October where we live in Eastern Ontario, and usually the weather's pretty decent at that time of year. Although this year it's like summer temperatures right now. I don't ever recall it being this warm for taking off beans. However, the corn usually comes off much later, maybe a month and a half later, maybe even more, and we're dealing with a lot colder temperatures at that time of year. So as I walk along the field where he has already taken off the beans, you'll see there's a lot of really fine debris, but no major stalks or anything. It's chopped right down, and the drier the beans are, the more it will chop down, because the stalks and stuff are way more brittle. And you want it to pretty well dissolve into nothing, because that makes your field work in the spring a lot easier, because you're not dealing with a lot of stalks and stuff, whether you're doing no-till or you're cultivating the fields or whatever you're doing. It's much easier to go work a bean field after it's cut off than say a cornfield, which you'll see in a future video, where there is a lot of debris left over, because obviously corn is a much bigger plant and has a lot of stalks and thick stalks. So most farmers really like the bean fields for getting rid of the debris. And you can see there's little shattered shells and stuff in here where the combine took the beans out. I'm thinking we have a good crop this year, but these combines have an indicator that will measure the exact bushels per acre or the tons. We always go by tons, but whatever measurement he gives me, I will convert it so that everyone can understand how much we produce from this field this year. you look at the top of the combine, there's kind of a mound right now. And that mound is the soybeans piling up, and I'm guessing he's pretty well full right now. So as you can see, he is full now, and he's heading over to that grain bin is my guess, and he's gonna empty it into there. Comes the spout. Now sometimes somebody would be driving alongside him with a wagon and he'd fill that way, but he doesn't have any help this year. So Arnie's helping him. He's up at his farm right now offloading grain, and then he'll be back in the field shortly to pick this up. that's how quickly they unload. And as you could see, he was kind of driving back and forth alongside the wagon to make sure that it spread evenly into the wagon. And he'll be heading back to the field. I haven't seen Arnie yet, but I expect Arnie should be here shortly. As I look in the far distance, that could be where Arnie has the wagons. We've never loaded this way before, but I see wagons in the distance. So he parked the combine and he's gotten in his Fendt tractor, my favorite type of tractor, and he's gonna hook up that bin or wagon, and he's gonna, I assume, bring it over to Arnie, because I can see that Arnie is on his way back here with another wagon. I don't know if Arnie's gonna drive this bunch of beans back or if Cody is. Arnie's never driven a Fendt before, and a new one to boot. Last year, this time when we were taking the crops off, I think it was the corn was in this field last year, and we got stuck in the field and the wagon tipped over, remember? For those of you who are watching, this year no problem of that happening because it is extremely dry and the ground is solid. One wagon's leaving, one wagon's returning. And I'm not sure, but they might have switched drivers. Now Arnie's going to be wanting a Fendt. Definitely Cody driving the old girl there. So this is a little more time consuming for Cody because last year he had some friends helping him out, and now it looks like Arnie and him are kind of going to be juggling tractors and wagons, which is going to be a little more time consuming for him. Cody's farm is at the other side of that kind of scrubland over there where Arnie's driving, and that's where the grain trucks are going to be meeting Arnie with the auger as they load up the trucks to take them to the elevators. We were in the soybean field. Arnie was bringing the beans over to help get them loaded for transport over to the grain elevators. And as you can see, the beans look really nice. distance. And all this grain is going to be going to our sheep feed, and surplus is going to be sold on the world market. Hopefully for a humdinger price, but always at harvest time the price drops. It's kind of convenient the way that works. And now Cody has to walk all the way back here. Yeah, that's a drag for him. I feel sorry for him. Maybe I'll try hitch a ride. Before he gets here, we'll have a quick walk around the combine and have a look at it. And you can see how really, really big it is. Now Ben and Max are over here too. So we're in the combine with Cody. He picked me up and we're just about to get started. So what type of head is this one?
This is John Deere 35 flex draper, 35 feet wide. Sometimes a hindrance.
Why is that?
So big for this area.
Oh, big for this area. Yeah.
I should have duals on this combine for this head, but
oh,
it works on dry times. It works fine. When it gets a little wetter, you kind of wish you had duals, but you sink down the ground a little more than you want to.
It's very dry this year, though, isn't it?
Yes, I'm liking that part. Today's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's like summer.
Yes.
And how are the yields doing this year?
Here, not bad for what the conditions are for this field. I know you do hear a lot of people having good yields around.
This one's not so great?
Not so much, no.
And why do you think that is? What are the conditions?
I think just might have been the conditions that got put in, and just they might have missed some timely rains.
Well, this field was put in late, right?
Yes. So I think that might be.
So what kind of yield are we looking at?
It's averaging about 43 bushel, so about ton, 1.2 ton per acre.
1.2, yeah, that's slow. Usually, what should beans be?
For this part of Ontario, mid 50s, mid to low 50s is pretty average. Like, you can be pretty happy with yourself for that.
How many tons is that?
50 acres is about, you're looking at about a ton and a half.
Ton and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're a little below that. Maybe hopefully our other field will do better.
Yes.
And what's the moisture level like?
Dry.
Really dry?
For around 11%.
11?
Yeah.
So are we going to have like shrinkage here? Shrinkage?
You're going to have
no drying fees?
Definitely no drying fees. You're losing some money just because you're losing 2% water weight.
2% water weight.
13 is considered dry for soybeans.
Okay, so ideally you want to get your soybeans off at when they're 13?
13 is ideal. I'll even harvest them at 50 because I'd rather send them wetter than drier.
Oh yeah?
At least then you'll pay a shrink fee, but at least you're actually going to get down to your 13%.
Right.
Where if you're at 10, 11%, well, you can't put water back in them, so you're losing money on weight.
Right.
The yield is there, just the weight part. That's what they pay you on. So.
That's right, yeah. It's all about the weight.
Yeah. Let's say this.
That's what
warm weather and the wind is really trying them out fast.
Oh yeah. That's what we always say about the sheep too. It's not how many sheep you put on the trailer, but how many pounds you put on.
Right.
And have you looked at the corn? Like, how's the corn around the neighborhood? Do you think it's dry too?
I haven't heard much for. I know some guys have all their corn done. I don't know what the moisture was. I tested my corn, which I got put in first week of June, and it tested 34%.
Whoa!
So that's pretty not bad for how late it got put in.
Yeah,
So,
but way too high for taking off.
yes, I was gonna do high moisture corn.
Oh,
for
were
my
you?
cows, but
Sure.
I decided not to.
Because we pulled some cobs off the other day, and it felt hard.
Yes, I know, like, not, I haven't heard here in Ontario, but I know, like, parts of, like, the States, Iowa and stuff like that, like, they got 14% corn,
Whoa.
so it's really dry. This weather here is helping it even dry even faster, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would be the same thing with the corn, right? Like, we are paid by the ton, so what's the magical number that to avoid drying costs but still get the maximum profit from your
50%, I'm pretty sure corn is considered dry. So no drying charges. I don't know what the threshold for cutoff is before they got to start putting it into a dryer instead of just air drying. I want to say 16-17% they'll take without having to put through a dryer, so you don't have to pay drying charges, just pay a shrink factor.
I don't think we've ever sent corn away that was drier than 20%. Arnie will probably say something different, but I swear we never have. So we've always had drying costs.
Right.
But I think he's hoping to do it later this year so we don't have to do that.
It's wise. That's what I'm doing too. I'm just going to wait as long as possible. So,
but not to the point where it's shrinking.
No. See,
it's a fine line, isn't it?
Once the cold weather comes, and like days like this, yes, it's going to dry. But you get the colder weather, nothing's really going to dry. It's just kind of going to freeze at what it's at. That's where it's going to sit.
Oh, okay. So you don't think freezing and thawing adds moisture to it?
Not too much with corn. It doesn't pick up moisture like soybeans do.
Yeah, this I got some good pictures of you from the back.
Yeah.
Like the dust coming off here is unbelievable.
Yeah, I started doing this field last night around 7 o'clock, and I had to stop. I turned back around, the dust was just sitting there. It was starting to get the dew here was coming in.
Oh.
And the dust settling was just so thick, I had to stop. There's a bunch of rocks in this field. I didn't want to suck one up. So
no, definitely not.
I stop what I'm doing.
Okay, so how many bushels in a ton for soybeans?
There's 36.744 bushels in a metric ton of soybeans. You asked me about corn, I don't really know.
Okay.
I know it's less. No, sorry, it's more. It's 39 point something for corn.
Okay.
Soybeans have a good density compared to corn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Cody just was telling me that this part of the field's yielding a little bit more.
Yes.
And I wonder if it's because, like, are the headlands?
Headlands never do well.
Yeah.
Because trees, of course.
Yeah.
Say they had corn. Yeah, they're competing against corn over there. They're taking some of that away.
Oh, you think so, eh?
Yeah.
Nasty corn.
Corn takes a lot of nutrients away.
Yeah, I know.
Not as much as the same thing, but there is. The biggest thing's the water. So they're doing better. As we get in the middle here, it's going to do a lot better.
But I mean, this year was a wet year.
Yes, it was. We had the rains we wanted.
That's why we thought it would be like a bumper crop this year. Apparently not.
Did Arnie fertilize?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He
usually does. I know he does corn because
he always fertilizes, and we put manure down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying this could be ground. It's just not
Or just maybe that he was late.
late is insane.
I mean, it wasn't.
I've never had good luck with late beans.
Yeah.
I've always had good luck with. Well, this year I had them in the first week of May. I had really good, the best beans I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
But say that's not going to happen every year. So you get those wet springs where you can't get them in.
That's
first week
right.
of May, so
That's right.
I was just fortunate enough to get them in.
Well, this year it was so bad. Like we were to the point where maybe we won't plant anything. You know, like
Right.
just skip it. Okay. This time Marnie's here with the wagon, and we're gonna offload it. 10 wagons.
16 ton.
Oh, there's 16. So this
Just this one.
the combine holds 16.
No, combine holds 9.
9. Okay. Okay, so it looks like we averaged on that field 1.2 to 1.3 tons an acre, which is less than we normally get. Cody's on his way back home to do milking. Arnie's gonna take that wagon home, and we're gonna be working again later for part 2 of combining the soybeans.
So I'm just doing night chores, and this is why I gotta check the barns to make sure everybody comes in. Oh, you can't see her, but she just walked in the barn right now. So I'm thinking that sheep could have been in heat, because right over here are the rams. You hear them? So yeah, I gotta make sure everybody comes in at night. So there was a ewe left out tonight, so we'll get her in. She's already in right now. And see if anybody else is in here. It's kind of dark. I know you can't see much, but just gonna shut these gates tonight. So today, a big part of the beans came off, and they were quite. I guess Lynn can talk about it better than I can. The beans were quite inconsistent. So some places they were coming off real nice, and some other parts of the field they didn't come off very well. So in the beans we did today, there was a 5-acre field corner that I planted in the 1st of June, and they turned out real well. But the beans I planted early didn't do very well. But you always wondered what you do wrong, hey? And I got a real good theory on that. Field that we did today, in the spring, we seeded that field, got a real downpour for about 2 days, and then a few days later, I went into the field because it wasn't rolled yet. I was concerned about the little rocks to roll them in the ground, and the field was so wet that I couldn't drive a tractor over it hardly. So we chose the route not to roll it, okay? And at that point, I can't find the video because I deleted it, but on my YouTube channel you'll see it. And I made the comment that some of the beans were coming up and some of the beans were not coming up. So the beans that were coming up were around the high hills, like the little embankments that were well draining, and in the valleys the beans were not coming up. So that would tell me that the beans that were not coming up are under stress, and the beans that were coming up were trying to do the best they could do. So it's uneven now. Now it's inconsistent. You wonder why. I do have a few theories on this. I'm going to combine the crops tomorrow that were seeded down after the rain, and I'm pretty positive they're going to pan out a lot better. So one of the theories is my land is quite rolling, natural rolls. So what's wrong with that type of land is if the beans are coming up on top of the hill and they're not coming up in the valleys or the low spots, it's the reason probably is because we had 2 days of rain, so the beans are already under stress on top of the hills, and the water on top of the hill runs to the lower part of the field, and now that water puts twice as much stress on the beans. And to my knowledge, and I'm not a real cash cropper, like I'm just probably shouldn't even be in it, I should be raising sheep, but to my experience, I never had luck putting beans in too early and getting those big heavy spring rains on them. I never had luck with that. I always had luck planting the beans when the ground was a little more drier and those spring rains were a little bit in the background, where beans do quite well on a little bit drier conditions. That's my theory why that field didn't pan out that well. But there's another reason why it didn't pan out either, and I don't want to talk about it because I'm not quite sure yet, but I can prove it probably tomorrow when we combine these other fields that were planted 10 days later after the rains. And they didn't get the big heavy downpours on these other fields. So we'll talk about that tomorrow when we're combining, but that's one of the theories. And the other theory is some of this land in the back of my farm up against the forest is so light sandy loam that in the summertime it just becomes dust. So that's the point now where the moisture disappears so quick, the beans actually don't even get enough moisture maybe during the summer when they were getting pods, and they didn't get enough moisture. So yeah, inconsistency of the field. This is not really great cropland. This is more sheep and dairy cows or beef cows pasture. It's not really the land you'd have in Western Ontario. So few theories about that. Guess that's the nice thing about farming. You're always guessing yourself, eh? I mean, I'm real happy when I have a good year, and when I have a bad year, I gotta suck it up and try to do a better job. So those beans didn't turn out too bad. I'm not real disappointed with them. What I did wrong, I have a real good theory on that. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow probably. Anyways, going to call this an evening. Hoping we can combine tomorrow. We might have it all done tomorrow. We've got a bunch of small pieces of fields, so it might take a little more time to combine. But I'm going to call that a day. Thanks for supporting us. Keep in touch, because I'm going to be venting out on the bean fields if this doesn't pan out. But whatever. Subscribe, click, give a like, tell it to a friend. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you for supporting the channel, and I will see you in the morning. Thank you very much. Have a good night.